That's your lead funnel, right? Like just like mine is right now, paid ad to VSL to book a call to client. And like I monitor that. And so like you got to kind of standardize and systematize that one happy path.
When we're talking about having that habit of creating content, you just talked about doing daily content, making it a habit and non-negotiable every day. But in the past, I've been most successful with batching, like spending a day doing reporting, writing, etc. What's more valuable, to develop the habit and like block the time, or to batch it?
I think everybody's different. I think there's something to be said for posting something every day. But if you're relying on batching and then you miss that, you miss the daily. I'm kind of like a hybrid. Also, just because you write it that day doesn't mean you need to publish it that day. I think this is where like everyone's going to kind of have their own thing. And this is where nuance comes in. Like write every day is one thing that maybe is your non-negotiable, but maybe it's actually the reason we're writing every day is because we want to publish every day. And then if we want to publish every day, that should be the non-negotiable. And as long as you're publishing every day and you're queuing up content, whether you wrote it that day or not, it doesn't matter. You publish something that day. So it's like the semantics of the language, right? So it's like you writing every day probably will allow you to have content in batches that can then have you posting and publishing every day. But we can obviously schedule that stuff in advance too. You should be posting because you're going to be like, that's what a leader would do. But when we think about the 5 1s, we want to get consistency in the GPS coordinates, right? Like the dials that are right there, like we need to start seeing and creating a baseline there. And so your way of filling those circles to hit the numbers is, okay, I'm doing this on LinkedIn, outbound touches, content every day. Once a month, I'm going to invite 10, 20 specific people that I've been engaging with to a workshop online where I'm going to make an offer for them to book a call if they want the pitch deck. I'm going to do the outbound touches, content every day. Once a month, I do a workshop where I invite 10 to 20 people. Every time I invite these people, I got to tweak my presentation. That's like, got to work on that. Cool. Every time I do the presentation, I'm getting 50% of the people to book the call. 2 of them are closing, got 2 new clients. Okay, cool. Can I improve on that? And it's like once that starts to stabilize and that's becoming like pretty predictable, that's when I would probably start looking to the next channel. That's your lead funnel, right? Like just like mine is right now, paid ad to VSL to book a call to client. And like I monitor that. And so like you got to kind of standardize and systematize that one happy path. Right? So like that's kind of how I would think about that. So, okay, how do I then, so I've kind of threw out a couple things that hopefully you caught. Like a key piece is, well, now I got to make invitations to this workshop potentially, likely would be a key piece of moving engagers on your LinkedIn content to a conversation. So I'm going to go target 10 to 20 people, invite them to this small workshop on how to improve their storytelling and persuasion so that they can close more deals. You give a presentation, and at the end of the presentation, you say, hey, if you're looking for XYZ, I put some time on my calendar to speak with you. We can help you. Here's a few examples of people we worked with, some outcomes that they got. If you'd like to get some help on that, here's how you book a call, and you start repeating that. Your presentations will get better. Number of people are compounding. You're going to still be emailing your list. If I was like minimum viable content approach, I chose my platform. I'm posting on LinkedIn every single day. I'm emailing my list at least once a week. I would say like that's like minimum viable from like my creation of content to get started and posting every day. And I'm sending at least 1 email a week to the subscribers on my list. I'd say like that is like the minimum touches of like content. Like, so you've got to create the content to go out every single day. You're going to have to create the content for the email. There's going to be probably overlap there. As you're doing all the posting on the content and you do a style of content, which is inviting them to give you their name, email, and phone because you have a nice little asset. Hey, I put this piece of this guide together or whatever. Here's where it is. So the organic is going to start giving you emails, right? But you don't want to leave those emails neglected on the email list. So it's like at least once a week to get started. I think like at a minimum, you'll be okay. From a topics perspective, so there's a training that kind of has like a couple different styles of content, and there's some prompts that you can think through as it relates to like, is this a teach post? Is this a, like high level, like sometimes you're teaching, which to me is a give, right? Like you're adding value through teaching. But I think you can't only be teach. You can't always be like, here are the 5 principles of persuasion. Like that's just like, they're going to feed on that. But like the stories, the behind the scenes of what happened with certain clients that either did or did not follow the principles. I think showing behind the scenes of your process is interesting, like photo of one of the key pages, like the sequence, any way you can show your work is a whole nother style of content. Sharing your own lessons and journeys, I think, is a certain angle of content as well. So I wouldn't just like lean into only like you always have to be teaching persuasion. Like it could be just like, hey, here's a lesson I learned from having done this so much. Or, hey, even I messed up this presentation. Here's why. Here's what I should have done. That's the type of content that's going to, again, kind of the wins and losses, the transparency piece that we talked about. And then thinking about your core offer outcome. When someone nails this, who do they become? Like back to that identity piece. Like I'm sure you've worked with people where they've kind of gotten this and like they get that result. Like what does it look like to be that person when they've achieved how to persuade and storytell? Like do the deals happen faster, easier? Do they get more of the things they want in life? Like, I mean, I'd be talking about how this as a skill, not just even the pitch deck, lead to like you being this different human being that allows you to serve more people and get more of what you want, right? Like how do these skills translate beyond just the thing, right? Which is, I think, kind of that identity piece. If that makes sense? Just connection content, like you being a human, asking questions. Hey, like what was the best presentation you've ever seen? You know, here's mine. Here's the one that I saw that like really convinced me. Like that's not leadership, but that's just like getting crowd participation, getting people to talk. So I think like that's normal content. The number of conversations that I've started from like taking a picture of the cover of the workbook and be like super pumped, clients are coming into town. We're going to work 2 days on blah, 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 blah. Like, let's go. Like, what's that? What is this program? Can I learn more? That was just a photo of the cover of the workbook. I didn't give anything. And it just opens up conversations. So it's like little that read the book, show your work. Like if that's like feels weird to you, inside of your day to day, you could kind of share and expose some of that stuff. Cool. But last tip on that is like don't seek perfection, seek the consistency first, and you'll start to find your voice.